In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace front brakes on a RAV4 located in the front suspension. Remove the hubcap. You can use a pry bar or a screwdriver, and that gives you better access to the lug nuts. So we're going to take the wheel off, 21mm socket, remove the lug nuts. When you have a wheel that's stuck like that, I take one lug nut and I put it back on by hand, a couple of turns, and I'll take a long pry bar or a rubber mallet, tap it. Remove the wheel. Let's take the rubber boot off the bleeder screw and let's confirm that our bleeder screw opens and closes. Okay, just give it a little hand snug, and let's set that aside. Now with a 14mm socket or wrench, we're going to loosen up both slider bolts. Set those aside. And now let's lift that caliper up. I'm going to set it right there while I get my piston tool. Now we know why I popped that bleeder screw open, because I'm going to push this piston back and I'm going to push the fluid out instead of reversing it back through the master. It just avoids any dirt traveling backwards and damaging anything to do with the master cylinder or the ABS system. We'll rest it here. Let's get that 8mm wrench again and we'll open that bleeder screw and then ratchet that piston right back. Making sure that it goes back nice and smooth, the piston doesn't hang up, and then we'll check it for any leaks out of that dust seal, confirm that the caliper is in good shape. Before I take that ratcheting mechanism off, I'm going to tighten up the bleeder screw. Get it a little snug. I'll take that ratchet mechanism out, and I'll get my caliper hook to hang that and make sure we don't strain that flex hose. So I just use a nice, it's actually a caliper hook is what it is. I'll put it right through that mounting bolt and hang it from the strut. Just keeps the strain off of that flex hose and out of your way. I'm going to put it in the back here so I can get actually to the bracket easier. So now we're going to dismount our caliper bracket to the knuckle. That's a 17mm socket or wrench. I'm going to break it free with my 3/8 ratchet. Break both. And now I'll get my electric gun to go faster. Hold that bracket, make sure it doesn't fall down. And take it off. And now I'm going to see if this rotor comes off, which I didn't think it would. It's kind of rusted right there, so I'm going to spray it with some penetrating spray, maybe take a wire brush to it. And I'm going to use these two holes right here. They're threaded. And I'll show you what that's used for. So take a 8x125 bolt and self-tap it in on both sides. And then with the socket, I have a 13mm socket. Go back and forth, and it breaks free. And you can slide it right off. Now we're going to clean up the bracket so we can put the new brake pads in. And what I'm going to do is take one set of pads out at a time. I can see that that's the inner pad because it has the caliper piston marking on it, and then the outer. Something tells me that because of the mileage, And the brand name on these, they are not factory. And I didn't see any indicators on them, so that means the last person that did the brake job didn't put an indicator on it, which is a brake indicator. But we have them with our kit, so we'll install them correctly. Now with that, I'm going to take each pin out individually. These ones are kind of frozen in there, which could have probably led to the defective brake pads probably sooner than needed and uneven wear. Oh yeah. That is caked in there and rusted. So this boot never went all the way up. So now that pin is pretty bad shape. I'm going to take it to a wire brush and I'm going to clean this up and confirm that it's not like worn out steel. It should perform again, but I'm going to clean it up with a wire wheel and confirm. Now this boot, it doesn't have any tears, but it is swollen and out of shape. If I had the hardware kit, I would definitely reinstall one. I recommend at this point, if yours looks like this, probably best results would be to go get a hardware kit and get these boots. You can get them by themselves, just the boots. And you could get new pins at that point if you wanted to. But now we're going to take a little bore wire brush and I'm going to bore out this cylinder to get all that cake stuff out of there. I'll take some brake clean, I'll spray it in there. I'm going to let that hang and dry while I go to the wire wheel and clean this up. So now you can see that I took that wire wheel to it. It looks pretty good. We're going to keep it. Now we're going to reassemble it. And like I said, the boot, I would totally get a new one. It's swollen, but it is not torn. So let's go ahead and get all the old stuff out the best we can. I wouldn't spray any parts cleaner or brake cleaner on that. That will only make that rubber swell up even more. We just want to make sure we get most of that out. But I'm going to reapply some high-temp silicone paste, put it right inside that boot, and I want it to get in those little bellow grooves. So we'll constantly keep the flexible smooth and not tear, dry out. Plus it also lubes up that bolt as it goes back and forth. So put them right into those little accordion spots. Now the thick part is what goes back into that collar, like that. Pop it in, it'll fit right into that channel. You'll know it settles. Take the bolt, make sure it seats in all the way. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to put a little silicone paste on this. This style has these flat spots. And on those flat spots, I'll load it up just a hair more, because it will take care of what's needed to go inside that cylinder. And as I install it, I'm going to twist, and it will hopefully get any air out that needs to come out. See, that's full of air. Squeeze it, let that silicone paste come right out, discard it. Now that's exactly what the kind of movement we want, nice and smooth movement and spinning. Now both pins have been cleaned up and taken care of. It's time to move on to the hardware, like the tins, and we're just going to pop the old ones off. Take note how they sit with the high-rise part on the back where the bracket is, not the opening side. And we'll clean up that with a nice wire brush. We just want to get all that rust out of there. If you have a wire wheel, feel free to use it. But this one's in pretty good shape, not too much rust, not like a lot of chunks. I'll just give it a little tap it clean. Make sure it's dry. And before I install the new tins, I'm going to take that silicone paste and I'm just going to put a thin coating of it on the bottom. And what this does is stops water from building up and causing rust and deteriorating those tins or swelling and pushing the pads in so that they don't move. So I'll take the new tins that come with the brake pads, high rise in the back. I like to see it spring loaded, so I'll go on the inside, slide it down, push it down. Let's do the other side. Here it is. So inside, push down and lock it. I do not put any silicone paste on the top. We want those pads to move freely and no dirt or grime, which is attracted to grease, which this is a silicone type. So we'll do the same to the other side, and then we'll get ready to install. So when you look at the pads, there is no difference. They're identical, shape and everything. So it doesn't matter whether it's in or outer. But the indicators, which is the noise indicator, does matter which way you put it on. So a rotor, if it rotates going counterclockwise, and the way the bracket is going to sit in the front like that, you want that indicator at the first contact of that rotor. So this would sit at the top. So simply just snap that in there, right in that groove like that. And these are the actual anti-rattle springs. So the easiest way I know how is to lay it in sideways like that, push down, and then twist it in. I shouldn't have to force it. It should glide in nice and smooth. There we go. And you make sure it has a good movement back and forth and it's not frozen in there. All right, so now we can go put our rotor on. Now we're over at the wheel again. So you're going to want to clean the hub up because you want that rotor to sit nice and flat. If not, you can have a pulsation, cause premature wear on the pads. If yours is worse than this, more rust, you might have to get an actual little buffer, which I'm going to use real quick. Take a little brake clean and we'll clean that area up. I have a catch basin underneath, getting all that nice little extra rust off there. We'll let that dry. 10 minutes has gone by, here we go. Now it's nice and dry. I like to take some copper never sees. It's high temp and you can do the brush on or that. You just want to make sure you get close to that hub center so rust doesn't build up. Now we can install our rotor. Make sure it sits nice and flush. Let's get our caliper bracket. So now we can put the loaded bracket on, slide it right over that rotor. Doesn't hurt to hold on to the pads, make sure they don't pop out on you. I'm going to hand start that top bolt. Center it. There we go. And then do the bottom. Holding onto the pads to make sure they don't fall out. Now we'll get our torque wrench to 79 foot-pounds. That 17 millimeter socket again. Do both bolts the same, 79. And just double check. Now we can take that caliper down from that hook. Grab your caliper and slide it right on over. Push those pins back. Now that they're nice and greased, they get a little bit of life to them. Let's hand start that top bolt. And let's line the bottom one up. Hand start that bolt. 25 foot-pounds, 14 millimeter socket. Double check. Now with the brakes completely assembled, we're going to open up our bleeder screw and let it gravity bleed. 8 millimeter wrench. Let's turn that and make sure no air pockets come out. Looking good. We'll close that up. I'm going to clean that with some brake clean. And then last, let's put on that dust boot. Now we're going to check the pedal. If the pedal feels good after doing both front brakes, road test it. If it sinks a little bit at a stop sign, you're going to need to re-bleed these brakes. Go ahead and reinstall the wheel. Put the lug nuts on by hand. Start them. Take our 21 millimeter socket. We're just going to snug them up. Crisscross. Now we can lower it and torque it to factory specs. 21mm socket, and we're going to torque the wheels to 76 foot-pounds in a cross pattern, crisscross. And double check. Now to reinstall the hubcap, you line up the valve stem. And then there it is. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.